closer than you think, man. It's scary. All right, everybody, welcome to Hot Couch Potato, the podcast where we talk about video games and watch the Food Channel, the Food Network. My name is Brent, aka Boo Up. I'm here with my man's Rick, aka A New Perfect Day. What's going on, man?
Not much. Today is another great day, a cold, cloudy day. With the low 70s in San Diego weather, but yeah, I definitely like watching the Food Channel, especially when I'm playing video games. If you watch the Food Channel while playing video games, dude, it's like a perfect synergy. You know, you're hungry and you look to your left or right and you see, they're making burgers on the Food Paradise.
Food Paradise, by the way, you know the name of the show and everything, dude.
Yep, exactly. The top 50 best burgers in United States. So yeah. So how's your weekend coming along?
It's good, man. It's going well. I've been applying to jobs everywhere, and for these jobs I have to take tests and stuff, and it's weird. I show up to a high school auditorium and take a multiple choice test. It's like the SATs all over again, dude.
I know, I got one Saturday, so it's gonna be multiple choice too. It's like, man,
it's weird, right?
Yeah.
You just feel legit like you're back in school and you're like, what the fuck? Really? I thought I was done with this type of stuff. But I guess it helps out, especially with government jobs, right? You get a score and then you get placed and everything like that. So it wasn't bad. I think I had to wake up at 8 o'clock this morning.
Damn.
And I rolled up over there. Yeah. A lot of people taking the test, but we'll see how it goes. I hope I have a leg up because I knew some of the things to study, man. So fingers
what
crossed.
What is the position for?
It's like an analyst position, so it's a lot of making reports,
analyzing.
Yeah, a lot of analyzing. Yeah, dude, you got to be super pro at Excel and everything like that. Which, by the way, Microsoft is it Microsoft Excel? Yeah, man, Excel is a crazy program, man. You could do a lot of stuff on there. I've seen it where somebody made Sonic the Hedgehog on Microsoft Excel. And you could legitimately play it. I know, man. It was crazy. Use the arrow keys and stuff, and it moves Sonic around. I don't know. I can't explain it. If you Google it, I bet you could find it and download it. But
Yeah.
Excel is a crazy program, and I only know how to do so much. I can make graphs. The friggin' what are they called? Make a calculator on there. I can make a calculator on there. And I'm boring myself talking about it right now. Yeah, but hopefully that helps me out on this test, dude. But anyways, this week, man, was Tokyo Game Show. It's
Nice.
Japan's version of E3, essentially. So they had a lot of game announcements. I mean, me being a PlayStation fan, I really just paid attention to what Sony was doing. I don't know. I'm sure Nintendo was there, and I'm sure Microsoft was there with Xbox, but I really wasn't trying to pay attention to what they were doing. PlayStation had a press conference actually over there. I think it was Thursday. No, not Thursday. Monday morning or something like that. Anyways, it was on at midnight here in America, at least on the West Coast, and I really stayed up to watch it. And there were some interesting announcements on there. One that definitely caught my eye was Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2.
Oh yeah.
And I showed Rick the trailer for this, and how it came across was essentially Titanfall, but with Gundams. And that's my dream. I didn't even know that was my dream game until I watched that trailer. It became my dream game.
Yeah, I remember it was some guy was running in the middle of a battlefield and this Gundam just comes out of nowhere and he hops in. I was like, jeez.
Yeah, man, because I love any anime with a mech. That's my shit, dude. Gundam, Neon Genesis Evangelion, all of that stuff, dude. I love it. And yeah, man, I was just telling Rick, my dream would be, you're in your base, walking around, you could talk to everybody in the base. It's like a RPG kind of thing, If you wanted to, you can get a waifu, you know what I'm saying? And
That's my dream.
And then all of a sudden, the alarms sound off and you have to make your way to your Gundam, and then you get to choose your loadout, what guns you're packing, whether you want, a heavy gun or strike Gundam or something like that. And then you just launch and fight shit, and there would be gameplay when you're not in your Gundam and within your Gundam. Oh man, that is the dream, dude.
Dude, did they say they're gonna release it?
No, I didn't think they put a release date. It was just that one trailer that showed a little bit of the gameplay. This is Battle Operation 2. I don't know if there was a Battle Operation 1. If there was, I've never heard of it. It's probably only been released in Japan, so it'd be interesting to see if the gameplay is similar to what they showed in this new trailer. But that is a dream game for sure, and fortunately, PlayStation 4 isn't region locked, so if it does only come out in Japan, we can ship it over here, right?
Yeah, and be able to play it. Usually when they have these Japanese games and it's popular enough, they'll have it in like English subtitles.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
So,
I'm hoping.
yeah.
Because that'd be cool to play. I'll spend the extra, what is it, $10 to ship it over here. That'd be cool.
On Play Asia, it's pretty good actually. It's like $65, and sometimes they only charge like $5 for shipping.
Oh, really? Okay. Have
Yeah.
you bought something from them before?
Yeah, I bought some PlayStation games, mainly PS Vita games, and it was like Japanese region and all that. But you know, the Vita can play all types of regions. So I think I managed to pick up one game. Oh, it was Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball.
Oh yeah. Wait, that wasn't here. I thought that was here in America. They released that here.
I think it was number 2. So number 2 was
okay.
like they decided not to bring it over to, you know, the US, but people were like, hey, you know, we still want to play this game. So they, you know, they released it with English subtitles, and then, you know, that's why I was able to pick up that game.
Oh, okay, nice. You would
I
think
haven't
that.
played it though. It's still in my
Okay.
backlog.
You don't have to lie, man. You don't have to lie. If you've played it, that's fine, dude.
Nah,
It's a safe space,
not yet.
Safe space. Safe space. Another thing they showed off was a lot of VR games. But one that really caught my eye was Zone of the Enders VR, which is crazy. I think it's just going to be a remake of Zone of the Enders 2. This is a Konami game. Again, another mech game. And you get to be inside the mech, dude. And some of the gameplay footage they showed was fighting another mech one-on-one. And there was this one where they were fighting a mothership of some sort that was shooting a huge cannon at them. And the guy was dodging it and flying through and attacking it. Again, dreams, bro. I did not know this was going to be my dream game until I saw it, dude.
Have you played any of the Zone of the Enders?
Yeah, in fact, I did. I played Zone of the Enders 2, and there were some things that I didn't recognize in the trailer. So I think the one that's coming out is going to be 1 and 2 put together. But there were definitely portions from 2 in the trailer, so it looks like a remake and some VR capabilities on there. I was just reading an article the other day too that I think PSVR has sold basically 500,000 units. So that's wild, man.
Are you gonna pick one up?
If Zone of the Enders comes out over here, hell yeah, man, I got to. I feel like I have to now, man. That's gonna be crazy to play. I mean, that, and I gotta buy a Switch too with all the stuff that's gonna come out for Switch. That lineup looks pretty crazy too, man. This
Definitely
October,
with Mario coming out. Ooh.
Yeah, man. Xenoblade I think comes out before the end of the year too.
Yeah.
And Fire Emblem Heroes. Oh, dude, so many games, bro.
Right into our backlog.
I know. You just buy it and put it on the shelf immediately. So that game will be great. Hopefully that's Konami's comeback, the start of their comeback. Another game that caught my eye during PlayStation's conference during the Tokyo Game Show was Fist of the North Star. This is like One Punch Man before One Punch Man came out. It's those old school anime that you watched when you were a kid. You know, it has the really old animation style, like the first Gundams that came out, like Speed Racer. That's kind of what the animation looks like. And this just guy just punches people, and it's amazing. And they're making a game out of it. It looks a lot like Yakuza. I think it might be made by the same people. It looks a lot like that. So I dig the art style in that game a lot already just from the trailer. So hopefully that looks good too. And it looks like they stayed true to at least a lot of the enemies from the show are making cameos in the game too. So that looks good. Excited for that.
They should put that in like VR, so that way you're gonna like punch 1,000 times.
Dude, you're gonna break a wall or something. You like walk too close to the wall and punch it. Exactly, man. They should make a One Punch Man game. How come they haven't made one of those yet? It might be a little bit boring.
I think because people would get knocked out in One Punch. Oh, you mean like just regular One Punch Man game?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the game would be way too quick because you just go around punching things and everything would die in one hit. So
what if the game was you don't attack, you dodge everything, right? And then when the time is right, then you punch. or what if it's like when you face an enemy, you have to talk to them. You have to pick different prompts on your dialogue with the enemy, and then when they get annoyed of you, they start being a little bit looser in their attacks, and then you punch them. Oh, dude, that'd be amazing gameplay.
See, you should be a game designer, man.
At least for One Punch Man. You can make your Batman game. I'll make the One Punch Man game. But the biggest news and what Sony closed out their conference with is Monster Hunter Worlds, which is a game that I know Rick and I are going to buy. It's going to be great. It's essentially an MMO, right? In the Monster Hunter world.
I've never played a Monster Hunter game, but finally they're bringing it to one of the generations, like the PS4 or the PC. Finally, so that way I could be able to play with my buddies when they're onto a system, because I think it was originally on the 3DS. So I don't know like anybody else that played aside from Danny. Danny was the only one I knew that played Monster Hunter. So if we can all play online together, then that would be pretty great. Cooking some dinosaur meat or something.
Yeah, dude, that'd be super fun, man. And I think the combat system looks awesome. I don't know if I want to have a sword or a friggin' Gatling gun. Haven't decided yet. But that game looks great. And they announced a release date, which is going to be January 26th, 2018.
Jeez.
Which isn't too far away, man. I mean, it's almost October. Sheesh, it's October next week. It's gonna come
next
quick,
week. Man. Are you serious?
Yeah,
October, November, December.
Next Sunday.
Oh my god! There's 3 more months and it's the end of the year.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! I'm 50.
So definitely can't wait for that. They showed a bunch of bundles they're gonna have collector's editions. There's gonna be a special PlayStation with Monster Hunter designs on it. Not sure if that's coming to America or if it's only gonna be in Japan. But it looks great, dude. I'm already a big fan of what's going to happen with this game. Just imagine, it looks like Dark Souls too. They got the dodging in there and everything. And I like the way that they don't show the enemy's health. The way you can tell if you're winning is if the enemy is breathing harder, if they're getting tired or anything like that. There's more visual cues rather than a health bar, which I think is awesome. So definitely cannot wait for Monster Hunter Worlds to come out and just beat up on a T-Rex with 4 different people, man. It'll be great.
Dude, we're going to be playing the Attack on Titan theme song. Swinging from the trees and shit.
Yeah, it's going to be great, man. Only thing I'm nervous about is the loot. I hope the loot system isn't too troll.
Oh.
Like my worst nightmare will be like Final Fantasy loot, where one loot drops for everybody and we have to roll on it.
I'll
cry. Yeah, man.
Yeah. I hate that too. It's like, because I know there's some people that like get the same type of loot over and over and over. It's like, stop rolling for the loot if you already have it, but they always end up rolling for it and end up getting it. So it's like a pain in the butt,
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Ugh. So that comes out in January. I know we'll be playing that a lot. Oh, there's also going to be this Thursday some new Red Dead Redemption 2 information.
Yes.
Rockstar tweeted out that they're going to announce something. Of course, they're pretty tight-lipped, so we don't know what it's going to be. We can only speculate. I hope it's a new trailer with like a main character talking or something, because the first trailer they had was all right. They showed off some environments, some landscapes, but we need more gameplay, man. Someone has to get shot in this new trailer. That's gonna get me hyped. Even if it's just one person, even if they don't even show who's getting hit, they just show a gun shooting. That's gonna hype me up. What are your wishes for the new announcement coming up?
For Red Dead, I hope they, we can look more into the background of John Marston, because I think it was the prequel, right, for the game.
Yeah, I think they were speculating that it's gonna be John Marston and the gang before they got caught up. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I just want to see if you can be able to play all these different types of characters and what happened to like the gang, because I know that you tracked down some of them in Red Dead, the original one, but you don't know what happened to the rest of the game. There's like 10 of them in the game.
I think they show 7 in Red Dead Redemption 2, but in the original Red Dead, you only track down 3 of them, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna become legend. I'm gonna be Landon Ricketts.
Oh, what if it's a Landon Ricketts storyline? What if it's just his story and how he ends up in Mexico? Oh man.
Yeah, because they said like he's the legendary, Wild West person. So I was like, I want to be him. I want to see how he plays out, because he was the one that taught you Deadeye.
Yeah. That's right, after that poker game in Mexico. Oh man, Red Dead is great. I might have to replay that, dude. It's sad it's not on PlayStation 4, man.
I thought it was on PlayStation 3 though, right?
Yeah, it's on PlayStation 3. I think you can play it on PlayStation now, but again, streaming a game while you're playing it does not make sense to me at all. You have to have pristine internet connection for that. So I don't think I'll ever do that.
I got DSL. Does that count?
You're gonna load 1 frame per second. You're gonna try and change weapons. You can watch a full episode of Man vs. Food and come back, and then your gun will be changed. So yeah, man, exciting times, exciting news coming in the near future of games that we're gonna play a lot of. But in the meantime, what have you been playing this week, Rick?
I managed to finish Batman Arkham Knight, and it was a pretty good story overall. Although I still prefer the story from Arkham City, but the gameplay, from what they improved on, it's really cool. I think if they combined the story from City with the gameplay, it's just amazing. There's so many different gadgets Batman has. There's a lot of innovative features. Like I mentioned before, is like you're chasing a villain, and then all of a sudden this villain comes up, to interrupt whatever you're doing. Like I was doing something. I forgot who was I chasing. I was chasing like Two-Face and his gang, and it turns out like Riddler was like on the broadcast saying like, I have Catwoman, you better come over here to save her, because I kind of been ignoring that quest.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was going over to go save her, there was like Man-Bat flying around, and then you get to jump on his back and like, try to subdue him and capture him. So like throughout the whole game, you have so many different villains that you're chasing after, even though they're not really mainly part of the game, the main story. You can essentially avoid them, but knowing Batman, you gotta act, you gotta capture these villains in time. So I don't know. I managed to finish the game. The game is great. I definitely recommend it. But if you haven't played the other 2 games, try playing Arkham, the first one, Arkham Asylum, and then Arkham City. And then I don't know. You can probably play that extra one. I forgot. Origins.
This one you said is Arkham Knight, right? Is this the one that only came out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One?
I think City might have came out on PS4.
Okay.
But yeah, that was when they were implementing the changes of like the dynamic duo, like the extra characters such as like Robin and Catwoman. Because in Arkham Asylum, you're just Batman. You're kind of sneaking around, trying to put their criminals back into their cells, but City is like you're more involved in being Batman in the city, and then Arkham Knight is you have everything, all of the gadgets. It's really improved. They really improved on the fighting mechanics and all that. So I definitely recommend checking out Batman if you're ever interested. It's a good Batman game.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. I just finished Asylum, and I guess next I got to play City. So eventually, once the backlog, gets a little better. So how's the missions play out in that? Is it one big map, and then there's main story mission markers and then side missions in between that, or
Yeah. So it's kind of like Grand Theft Auto. You have your main marker or wherever mission you have to go to, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you have a bunch of other missions that pop up. Like for example, like there are people robbing the bank, and it's like sometimes it's not even part of the mission. You have to visually see it,
Mhm.
or like capturing Manbat, which he's flying around in the sky. You don't visually see these stuff, but when you get close to them and you manage to actually see them, then they start appearing on your indicator
Okay,
to
yeah.
chase them down or whatnot. Like there's another one like Firefly. You can't really locate him, but when you start seeing buildings that are on fire, you go to investigate, and then you see him like lighting things on fire, and you have to like shoot him down or like
Ah,
capture him.
that's really
So
cool. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not on
So
the actual mini map or on the main map, but if you run across it, then you get involved in that side mission. I like that. That's really cool.
yeah, exactly. So there's like a couple of villains that I haven't captured yet because they're kind of tricky. But I think that if you capture all of the villains inside the game, you unlock the true ending. So I
Okay.
managed to just beat the game, and then I just googled what the true ending was. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I was pretty satisfied with the game, and I think it ended the way it should have ended because I think that's the final Batman for that series.
Ah, okay. They're just gonna reboot the universe after this one.
Probably from different creators and whatnot. But then that's the thing, the person that played the Batman voice was like Kevin Conroy, which
Mm-hmm.
is the 1990s Batman, which is the iconic Batman voice. He
Mm-hmm.
starred in so many different animated series and cartoons. Like everybody really recognized that is the Batman voice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did he say he's
yeah,
gonna retire after this one?
he said he was supposed to retire after I forgot like City or something, but then he comes back doing Arkham Knight. So
That's
yeah,
weird because I know Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, he did the Joker in the '90s
yeah,
cartoons too, and I think he did it for Arkham Asylum. And he said he was gonna retire and he wouldn't go back into doing the Joker unless the Killing Joke came out. But the Joker's been in every Batman game, right?
uh, for this series, yeah, he's
Yeah.
been in just the ones with Kevin Conroy. I think the one Batman Origins, that was like kind of a different company.
Uh huh.
They had a different take, but the same mechanics.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're saying, Mark Hamill, like he too is also the iconic Joker voice,
Hmm.
that everybody agrees because he has that specific kind of laugh, which is like kind of scary.
Yeah.
So if you play the Batman games, you'll understand for that. But yeah, I've been playing that game. Oh, and I've been playing your favorite game, Destiny.
And that's not a lie. That is my favorite game right now.
Yeah. And then I remember I was playing. It was me, you, and Anthony, and we were doing the Nightfall. So, which is one of those hardcore strikes, and we were trying to get my rat gun, which is like a exotic gun in
Oh my
Destiny.
God.
And the only way to get it is if you have two other players that are either on the same quest or either have the gun. But like we go through Nightfall. By the way, Nightfall is hard as shit.
Yep.
So
And it's timed.
like
And there's a timer. Yeah.
yeah. So there's like a timer. You start with like 15 minutes. So basically, you have to complete the whole Nightfall with 5 minutes remaining, or at least above that. And it's really difficult. The only way you would do that is like you efficiently kill the enemies, which give you more time,
Mhm.
or you breeze through the entire story. But anyways, Dustin was also in the party chat, so he was listening in. So the first time we go through it, we kind of breeze through it. We found a way to kind of cheese it, so that way we were getting more time. And then I remember like near the end, like the players were supposed to have the gun equipped or something like that, and we ended up beating the boss. But I remember you were like saying, "Oh no, I forgot to equip my gun."
Which means
And
it
I
was all for nothing, man.
yeah,
Our
yeah. So I
entire
was
run was
like,
for nothing.
what? Like I was like kind of like defeated at that point. I was like, oh man, we got to do this. We got to do this at least one more time. You know, so I kind of want that gun. So you know, we go around second time. Well, before we do that, Dustin is laughing his ass off. By the way. So we go through the Nightfall again a second time. And then right when we finish killing the boss, you know, I'm like super excited, super hyped. I'm like, yes, I finally completed this quest. And then I didn't see any achievement or, you know, indicated that I got the gun. I looked in my inventory. It's still on the quest. And I'm like, no, what is going on? And then I remember, you know, you guys asked me, you're like, what does it say? And then I was like, oh, it says 0 out of 3. So basically, this quest had more than one quest inside this quest line.
Yeah.
And I was on quest 1.
Yeah. There's multiple steps that you have to go through, right? I think the first thing you have to do is do patrols. Then you have to do public events, then play Crucible. And you this whole time you have to play with people that either have the Rat King gun or are doing the quest too. So Rick didn't realize that he had to do these other steps. The part with the Nightfall and having 5 minutes left, that's the final step of the whole quest line.
Yeah.
And Rick didn't even know that there were the first 3 parts that he had to do.
Yeah. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go kill myself. And I jumped off. I didn't even care at that point. And then you could just hear Dustin, Anthony, and Brent just laughing their ass off. Oh, I think Anthony made a video of it too. It's just like, oh my god. Like, I was like, just, you know, at that point, I didn't even want to turn off the PS4 properly. I just like put it down. I put the controller down. I was like, I was sweating because the Nightfall was already hard enough. And then I was like, I'm just gonna go eat. And then, like, you know, my girlfriend, Marnelli, she asked me, she's like, what's wrong? And I like told her my situation, and she just bust out laughing.
Oh
like,
no, dude.
Oh, no sympathy, no sympathy. And I was like, oh, I don't understand. So, you know, I just go out to getting a dinner, you know, went out to go get dinner. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll feel a little bit better. And then I get a text from Anthony. He's like, he posted the video. And I was like, Jesus, okay, I just want to cry a little bit.
No
and then I remember you posted right after. I think the next day in the morning, it was like me crying in the car or something like that. Like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
I sent Rick that video from Friday when what's his name tries to get his chain back from Debo, but nobody will help him. So he just goes to his car crying, and Chris Tucker just says under his breath, "You know we're gonna cry in the car." That video is so
exactly
great.
what I did, man. That's exactly what I did. But either way, you know, today we were able to finish the raid, which is like the essential, one of the essential parts of the game.
Wait, did you ultimately got the gun, right? Like you did.
Oh,
the
yeah,
quest
yeah.
on the next day, Friday, right?
The next day, yeah, we ended up getting the gun with like me and Moto, and you know, we went through the proper steps and we breezed through the Nightfall because I was like an expert at that point. I was like,
So
I did it 3 times.
So was it worth it? Was it worth it to get that gun?
Oh no, that was the. So under my misconception, misunderstanding, I thought this gun was a hand cannon. I am a hand cannon specialist. I love hand cannons. You know, that's why I broke down my equipment for the Hawk Moon in Destiny 1. You know, I was dominating, but you know, when I looked at the stats, I was like, wait a minute, this is sidearm. It's not hand cannon. And I was like, Jesus. And then I was like, you know, I was like hoping this gun was really good as a sidearm. And I was like asking Anthony and everybody, I was like, hey, is this gun really good if we all 6 have it? And he was like, no, that gun is not even worth it. So So they managed to tell me right after we got the gun. I was like, oh, I'm defeated at this point.
Do you have at least a sidearm that you could infuse it into, or?
No, I honestly don't believe sidearms are good in any way.
So you just threw it away?
Yeah, dude, I just broke it down. I was like, this is garbage.
Oh no, that's funny, dude.
Oh, damn it. And it was like really high level too. It was like 300 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus, why couldn't you have been a hand cannon or I don't know, a pulse rifle? I don't even use pulse rifles, but still. Yep, that's my experience for this weekend.
And today we were able to get together and finish the raid. That was really fun. I completed it earlier this week for the first time. As you know, I was doing one part of the raid every day. That's how long it took.
Yeah.
And then after reset on Tuesday, I think I raided again on Thursday night. Ended up beating the raid in 2 hours. It wasn't anything at all. Super easy. Just breeze through it. I think I mentioned before, the raid is easy. The mechanics are pretty easy. There's no real bosses or DPS checks until the end. It's all a matter of communication and being synchronized in what you're doing. You know, it revolves around a lot of teamwork. I think raid is huge because you can't really carry anybody through it. Everybody has to do their own part, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So today we were able to run the raid through with a bunch of first timers. Rick was among them, and I don't know, how was your experience in the raid? How did you like it compared to the other raids you've done before?
I really enjoyed it because it's like it really forces you to work as a team. You know, like everybody has their own parts to do, and if somebody messes up, that's the thing though that can break a team. If somebody messes up, now it points out who messes up. So it's like, you know, there's like a certain part where you have to sneak around, and if you get caught, now it just points out like, oh, Boo Wop was the one that got spotted, you know, and the whole team wipes.
Yep.
So, you know, I really enjoyed it. Up to the last part, like I was like getting upset at myself because I kept messing up near the end. And, you know, Ryan promised everybody free tacos, whoever's in the group chat, and a burrito for Brent if we managed to finish before like 4 p.m. our time. But unfortunately, you know, when it came down to the last seconds or something like that, I would always like die or mess up on my part because it was like a little tricky. You know, like I'm a slow learner and, you know, I have to get things done. I have to keep doing it repetitively. I'm a kinesthetic learner too. So at the last part, it was only the last part I was really messing up. The rest of the game, I didn't really die too much. I died, but not really a lot. And I was able to hold my own, except for the last part where you know, there's a certain mechanic where we're all teleported, and I would always like kind of mess up, and I was like, man, where am I?
Yes, and that's the thing too. Even if you weren't the one that got teleported and you were outside, it's rough out there too. You know, just waves after waves of enemies come through. You got to listen for the call outs and kill the right scion to make the barrier go up. So as I mentioned before, it's you really can't carry anybody, especially through that last part of the raid. You know, everybody has to do their individual part, whereas before in Vault of Glass or in Crota, if you had maybe 2 or 3 people who knew what they were doing, everybody else could just tag along, you know, and you can finish the raid with them. Not so much anymore. Which I think is cool. You know, it gets everybody more involved and it makes everybody feel that much more accomplished, you know, once we finish the raid. One thing that counteracts that feeling is the loot you get from this raid. It really doesn't make any sense how it works. So of course, with every encounter there's a chest, and in that chest could be a gun, piece of armor, or more often than not some coins that you can get.
Tokens and coins. Throughout the entire raid I just got nothing but damn tokens
and that's the thing,
coins.
You know, you turn these coins into vendors, and you have to turn in, I think it may be 10 or 20 before you can get a gear piece related to the raid. So you have to turn in 20 of these coins to get one piece of gear. At each encounter you get 7 coins. in the place of a piece of gear.
Jeez.
So that doesn't make sense. That means if you finish the raid, get nothing but coins, you'll get, what's the math on that? 28 coins. So you can only get 1 or 2 pieces of gear, as opposed to getting 1 from each. That would be 4 pieces of gear. It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know if they thought through the loot process in this iteration of the raid. Because it doesn't feel worth it if you beat it and all you see is you got 7 coins and you go, great, what can I use these coins on?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting throughout the entire thing. I was like, okay, everybody's getting a cool rocket launcher, getting a cool cloak, and I was like, here am I getting these tokens, and I went to go exchange it. I only got like 2 pieces, and I was like, these are not even the guns I even use, or they're like duplicates of what I already have. It's like, man.
Yeah, it's a little bit rough. And furthermore, that vendor you talk to turn in those coins, you can't talk to him unless you beat the raid. So let's say you're stuck on the raid, right? For whatever reason, you can't beat the final boss. You can only do the first 3 encounters. And just week after week, you can't beat the boss. You're stacking up all these coins. You can't use them because the door is locked until you beat the final boss in the raid.
Wow.
So it works totally backwards, as before. Maybe if you could do the first 2 parts of Vault of Glass or the first 2 parts of Crota, at least you're getting some gear to level yourself up, to get yourself ready for, the final boss. Not so much this time around. So I don't know. It's a little bit weird. The more we're getting into Destiny 2, the more we can look at the nuances of it, and the more we can complain about things. It's the cracks are starting to show a little bit. Whereas they got it so perfect. They got it so perfect by the end of it. By the time Rise of Iron came out, everything was going great. Some of the changes with the coin system, public events, and everything in Destiny 2 were awesome as well. But it's just for gear drops in the raid where they're starting to show that they've regressed a little bit. It's better than before. You're not getting a bunch of the same pieces of gear. I think every time I've turned in coins, every time I've gotten a drop, it's been something different. So I'm not getting duplicates, but getting those drops. I've done the raid 3 or 4 times, and I've gotten more coins than anything else. That is for sure. But yeah, man, beat the raid today. I think it took us about 4 hours to beat the raid today, maybe 4.5, because I think we started at noon. But it was good because it was 4 people's first time doing it ever. So we had to explain it along the way, have some test runs and everything like that. Ultimately, to me, I think the part with the dogs is the hardest part, because that is more of a DPS check, and you have to know the map and sneak around and everything. And we beat that maybe on the 3rd try. It wasn't until we got to the easy part, the gauntlet, where we died a couple times. But seriously, I think the last part of the gauntlet, where we're all running through with the orbs and trying to run that obstacle course, I think that's the most fun out of all the parts in the raid. It gets a little bit hectic. But I think that's the funnest part.
Yeah, and they nominated me runner, and then Dustin too, and we were just running around, and then Dustin was floating, or I forgot. Brian called me a flying butterfly.
Yeah, and Dustin was a Titan, so on the second part of the gauntlet, when you're running through the circles, there's actual obstacles you have to jump over and stuff now, and you could see Dustin jump through the circle to grab the orb, but there's a gap on the other end, so he would slow down in midair, turn around, and come back and land.
Backwards?
Yeah, dude, and then reestablish his jump and his float. It was so funny. If you notice, I don't know if you noticed, but when you were calling out which triangles to shoot, Dustin was 5 seconds behind you, because he had to take it a little bit more slowly.
Yeah, my mobility I put at 9.
Oh man, but that was good times, man. Good times. The raid is always good times. They did a great job designing it. People can complain about how there's no bosses or anything like that, but the encounters are fun enough and use a lot of teamwork, so they did a great job with it. Hopefully the next one is even better. I know they're coming out with factions this week, so Dead Orbit, New Monarchy, Future War Cult are coming back. So
I think you have to vote for one of the best ones, or I forgot. You have to join one, and then earn some points?
Yeah. So it's like clans where you join one, and everyone that joins one. Let's say if we all join Future War Cult, for example, right? And throughout the week, they're gonna track our progress. How many people in Future War Cult beat the raid, beat trials, do public events, get experience essentially, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the week or however long, whoever has the most points, most experience, that whole faction gets bonus loot or something like that.
Dude, Dead Orbit all the way.
Oh, that's what everybody's saying, man. But I like Future War Cult, man.
You're gonna be on the losing side, bro.
I hope at least we could have one character in each faction. It's just not you yourself are in one faction.
Oh, I see.
Maybe my Hunter in Dead Orbit. That'd be cool. Because the chest piece for Warlocks from Future War Cult, I really want that. So I'm going Future War Cult with my Warlock at least. So hopefully it can be different between each character you have. But yeah, it's been my week mainly is raiding for sure. I haven't really been doing anything else because all my characters are level 20 plus. Raiding and Nightfalls with Rick. Trying to get him that Rat King gun.
That I'm not even able to get.
Yeah, because you know what it is too? Is the whole thing with that exotic weapon is the more people that have Rat King in your fire team, the more damage it does, right? And
yeah.
You could tell because the eyes on the gun start to glow. That's how you can tell if you have bonus damage. But it's not even worth it. That and everybody has to have the Rat King out at the same time. So let's say you're using the Rat King, but I'm using my energy or power weapon. You don't get the damage bonus.
Lame.
And we have to be close together in close proximity to each other. So let's say, for example, in the bath part of the raid, right, where we're all in different corners of the room rotating, we wouldn't get the buff because we're not close enough to each other. So
wow,
it doesn't even make sense to use it there. I know, man. It's kind of broken. They need to make it more worth it. I think overall the exotics haven't been too impressive in Destiny 2. I think they're just scared at making something too overpowered. They don't want another Gallahorn or anything like that. I think the closest thing we have is the Orpheus rig, right? Unlimited supers.
Dude, I was able to shoot the arrow 7 times and I recorded it.
Yeah, man, that's the closest thing. And then I think there's a chest piece called the Raiden something, but it gives you unlimited arc.
Oh, for lightning, right? Yeah.
It gives you unlimited pole dancing. Essentially, as long as you kill something, it refills your bar. So, unlimited pole dancing for life. That isn't all I've been playing this week, though. I did dive back into Dark Souls. I stopped playing it for a while. I think it's because we started playing. What did
Bloodborne?
Oh, Bloodborne. That's right. Yeah. So I stopped playing Dark Souls because Bloodborne came out, and I want to say I got Dark Souls for free on PlayStation Plus.
Oh, what? It was free?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know why I would ever spend money on it because I see how much you suffered through it. Seriously, my first experience with any Souls type of game is at Rick's house, and he was dying over and over. It might have been Demon Souls you were playing.
All the time I would die.
You were dying over and over and over to this dragon. I think I was watching you fight this dragon forever.
Yeah, that's Demon Souls.
Yeah. And essentially, you were trying to attack him from behind so you could break his tail and use that as a sword.
Oh, that was Dark Souls. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was watching you do that over and over and over. And I'm sitting here thinking, what the heck? He would circle the dragon for maybe 5 minutes and hit him once and then have to circle him all over again. And whenever you hit him, it would take like 2% of his health off. I'm sitting here thinking, this is not worth it. What are you doing, dude? And he goes, oh, it's for a sword, man. It's so I can get his tail for a sword. So I go, okay, maybe that's it. Finally, after forever, it may have even been an hour. I don't know how long he was fighting this thing. He kills it. He gets the sword, and he can't even equip it because your dexterity wasn't high enough or something.
Yeah, I think it was like my strength wasn't high enough.
And I go,
like, what?
So you can't even use it, dude. I'm just like, yeah, but I'll use it later. So that's my first ever, experience or exposure to any Souls game, and from that down, I was like, I'm never putting myself through that at all. Which is why I'm assuming I got Dark Souls for free, because I would never spend money on a game like that before my exposure to Bloodborne. You know, it's really thanks to Bloodborne that I started playing the rest of the Souls games. So I dove back into Dark Souls on the PlayStation 3. Huge fan of Dark Souls 3, and Dark Souls 1 is a lot more similar to it than Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2, you have to block a lot more in that one, I noticed. But I really just wanted to get through the story in the entire game, and someone suggested that I just make a pyromancer because it's overpowered in that game.
Yeah, they are.
So I started to, and yeah, man, it's kind of overpowered. Because you just level up your hand, basically, and you have the same 2 fire spells, and you just one-shot everything almost. And I just put up my stamina, put up my whatever arcane ability or whatever it is you need to use the fire magic, and I'm standing 20 feet away from everything, just throwing fire.
and one-shotting everything.
Yeah, man, they can't block it. They can't do anything. I don't even have any weapons. I'm just throwing fire everywhere. So it's overpowered. I think I'm almost caught up to the place I was before I stopped playing. I just beat the... oh my god, what's that one called? The one that I talked about before that gave me a hard time with the 2 dogs.
Oh, where you get locked in. I think I forgot. It was like a guy with 2 swords, right?
Yeah, 2 swords, 2 dogs, and everybody just cheeses him.
And there's a staircase that...
Yeah. So I beat him super quick. I think it only took me 2 tries, where before it took me like 180 or something. I threw like 4 fireballs and beat that fight. It was so broken. So I'm getting caught back up to where I was before, and that's a great game. They need to remake that, or at least do what they did with Dark Souls 2. Make it 60 frames per second and just throw it on the PlayStation 4.
Or Red Dead on Steam. Is Red Dead on Steam?
No.
God, they need to put that on Steam.
I think there's modders. I actually think there's modders working on it right now, but the progress is a little slow. Well, of course, with any modified game or emulator, it's going to be slow because that's like a side thing people do. But I have seen screens or YouTube videos of Red Dead running on a PC. It's unofficial, though. Super unofficial.
I see.
But yeah, man. So those are the games we've been playing this week. Last week, something I wanted to talk about. I read this article recently talking about these little features that game developers put into video games to make games easier, I guess I want to say. The big thing with video games is you're not going to play them if you're not having fun, right? Which is why I didn't want to play Dark Souls or Demon Souls, because it just looked like a horrible time of people dying over and over. And that's the case. If you're playing a video game other than Dark Souls, which you're supposed to die, if you're playing a video game and you keep dying over and over and things are just too hard, you try to change the difficulty, you realize you're playing it on easy mode. That's not fun. You're never going to play that game ever again. So to help people out, to give people that little satisfaction that they're actually good at a video game, game developers hide some features here and there that you may not be aware of. Just to do that, make the game a little bit easier for you so it seems like you're better at the video game, to make it more fun, to make sure that you keep on playing their video game. So I got a short list here of things that happen in games. Some things I didn't even know until I started reading this. I just want to get your impressions, Rick. What you think about it, if you've ever run into it before. There's going to be some games you haven't played on here, some games you have. I'll start with the one that you've played before. So in Assassin's Creed, that last tick of health bar, you know how your health bar is separated into little squares, right?
Yeah.
That last square has more health than any other health bar out there. So it makes it,
I never knew that.
It makes it feel like more hectic because you have that one last health bar left. But instead of maybe 2 or 3 hits it takes to take away that health bar, it'll take like 10 or something, right? To make you feel more epic, like, oh man, I'm actually blocking this, when you're actually getting hit. It just takes a lot more hits. What do you think of that? What's your experience in Assassin's Creed in that? It seems true, right? You're always on that. You never really die. You're just always on that last bit of health in that game, right?
Yeah, I played like most of all of the Assassin's Creed games, and yeah, I've been in so many different scenarios where I'm at that last tick of health. But I never knew that it's more than what it's supposed to be because you always feel epic. You're like, oh my god, I gotta survive. I got one more hit and I'm done. But if it's like that one more hit is actually 10 more hits before you actually die, then I guess if it gives you that feature, you feel like you're on that adrenaline, you're about to die kind of feeling, and
Mhm.
the fight or flight response starts kicking in. So I guess that's good in a sense because a lot of players never really knew about it. Like for me, I never knew about it. If it does the job, then I guess as long as I'm enjoying myself and it doesn't feel too hard,
Mhm.
because if I end up dying, like if they put it normal, then I might have been dying in all those scenarios and get frustrated, and then start comparing it and start hating the game. But
Yeah.
um, you know, I don't know. I think as long as you don't know about it, then I
Yeah.
think you're pretty good.
But that makes sense, right? It makes it feel more fun. I think another example we can give is Overwatch, right? Where it says you eliminated someone even though you didn't actually land the killing blow, right? As long as you took a piece of their health off that amounted to their death. If you get an assist, essentially, it counts as
Yeah.
an elimination for you, you know? So it gives you those stats to make you feel better about yourself, to have that KD ratio be a little bit inflated. As we discussed before, Destiny 2 is doing the same thing. So it makes the game more enjoyable, gives it more of a replay factor for yourself to play because you're having fun in it. You don't feel like complete garbage at the game that you'll never pick it up again. So I think it's funny, man. And now that I'm thinking about my recent experiences playing Assassin's Creed, it makes so much sense, because you think, oh God, if I get hit one more time, I'm going to die, right? And you mistime that counter and you actually do get hit and you're like, oh wait, I'm still
I'm
alive.
still alive. Yep.
Another game we might not be too familiar with, this game called Fear, first person shooter, where you have demonic powers or whatever. But I guess the trick in this game is bullets bent toward things that exploded. So if there was an exploding barrel or something nearby, as long as you shot in the general area, your bullets would hit the exploding barrel and it would blow up. So if you weren't necessarily aiming at it, but you were just shooting in a general area, it made it look epic because you were blowing something up and people were exploding around it. And I think that's true in a lot of games. And I was reading somewhere that was true in Dark Souls too, where arrows would bend or kind of curve towards you. Did you feel like you were a little bit more accurate? Did you ever use arrows in Dark Souls at all?
Not really, because it's like you have that so much time to recoil the bow and like actually aim down and start shooting people. So I didn't really like the trajectories in that because
Hmm.
it didn't really justify me having to sit back and wait a couple 5 seconds to actually shoot somebody, and it'll only take like 20 seconds off,
Mm-hmm.
or not 20 seconds, 20 like HP, 20 attack off of the enemy. But
Okay.
the only times I would ever use it, I remember that dragon that you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Before I encountered that, before like I actually was gonna try to chop off his tail, I actually bought like 300 arrows or something like that, and I was trying to shoot the dragon, and so it was only like taking off like 2 HP, and I just spent my entire time shooting that. But
Shooting his tail.
yeah, I guess that was the only time. I haven't
Jeez,
really
that's crazy,
noticed.
man.
Yeah.
Did you use all 300 arrows?
I think I used like 250 or something like that, and then he like flew away, and it was like they said like if you just shoot arrows, he's just gonna fly away, but he's gonna return back with the health, with the health to where he started. So I was like, damn it, you have to go in close combat and actually chop off his tail. So I was like, oh
Hmm.
damn it, I wasted 250 arrows, which was like equivalent to, I don't know, 250 times 3 seconds. I had to recoil the bow. Take an aim, dodge his fire, and I don't know.
Oh god. Seems like a process, dude. But you know what? That seems so real. How else would you fight a dragon if you're just a regular knight? You know.
Exactly. I don't go up to that shit.
That's funny. We were speaking about Overwatch a little bit earlier, but apparently, counters to whatever class you are in Overwatch sound louder, so you could hear them coming from further away. You're more aware of them, right? For example, if you play a Pharah that's flying around, either a McCree or a Hanzo counter you, right? All their steps, all their voice lines, you'll hear louder than anybody else's, just so you're aware that they're there to look out for them. That's a little bit crazy, right? So
I did not know that.
Well, now you know, dude. So you better pay attention to the people that could kill you or what counters you in that. Another funny one I saw: Jak and Daxter, PlayStation 2 platformer. You would trip instead of loading. Instead of hitting a loading screen, you would trip, and the time it took you to get up, that's how long it would take the game to load the next part of the game. So that's a cool little way to disguise a loading screen, is to make the actual player trip in place. Which I think is cool, as long as it, because we all hate loading times, right? I think a lot of the early reviews for Bloodborne is the loading times were horrible, and the fact that you died a lot meant you saw a lot of loading screens. So anything that masks a loading screen, I'm all for it, dude. That makes games way more fun.
Yep.
Speaking of platformers, so there's this term that I learned that game developers use called coyote time. And what this is for when players walk off a ledge and press the jump button too late. But instead of falling, you'll still be able to jump. You know, this is just to help everybody who has horrible timing. And you know what? More often than not, that happens. You know, you run too close to the edge of a platform you're supposed to jump off of. You can clearly see your feet are off the edge, but you still make that jump magically. Did you ever notice that in platformers you played?
I haven't really noticed any of that, but I did remember there was this one time we were in Destiny and we were playing. I forgot. Was it Atheon, the one where you have to jump from ledge to the other side?
Oh yeah, Wall of Glass, yeah.
Yeah. I remember like when I was watching some of the characters when they would jump, you know, like they would land and they would have barely any room to land, and it looks like they were like floating off the edge, but they were able to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was this one time like Eric, he like jumped and he like hit like some sort of invisible wall. And then he like bounced off the wall and he like flew backwards. But yeah, I don't remember ever encountering something like that. I probably have a lot, but it's just
they hit it so well.
Yeah, exactly. I would always think I landed it.
Yeah. The biggest one, I think the biggest example we can give here is the new Crash Bandicoot, right? Everybody was saying it was a lot harder than the original Crash Bandicoot that came out. It turns out they changed the hitbox for Crash's feet. So jumps that you would normally be able to make in the original Crash, they weren't there anymore. I think in the original Crash it was more edgier, like it was a square was his hitbox for his feet. Since it was a remaster, they were able to make his actual feet the hitboxes for when he lands. So it's more of an oval. So people weren't hitting jumps that they used to be able to hit back in the day, making the game so much harder than it was, and that resulted in a lot of complaints. So I think that's a good sign, or a good example of that coyote time, or those extra extensions of the ledges that you aren't really there, but they put in there anyways. I've yet to play. I need to play Crash Bandicoot, by the way, just to see really how that difference is, whether it's game breaking or not. Another one you might be familiar with, Arkham Asylum. Apparently, the enemies in that game can't turn 180 degrees, so it's easier for you to stealth around. So if you're right behind someone, the enemy can't immediately just turn around and look at you. They got to turn slowly before they can see what's behind them. So I thought that was super funny. You think you're being super stealthy and you're just barely avoiding his eyesight, when in reality, you have so much time since he can't turn immediately around to see you.
I did not know that. I thought it was the shit.
That just means the developers are doing a great job. Here's a funny one that made me feel so much more at ease, especially after all of our Left 4 Dead days. Apparently, the enemies in Left 4 Dead deliberately target players that are the furthest away from the group or have the least aggro. So that makes me feel so much better, right? When I'm trying to stealth while everybody's trying to tank in Left 4 Dead 2, and all of a sudden I get pulled by a dude. What are they called? The smokers with the long tongues?
Lickers or
Lickers,
smokers,
whatever they're called. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes me feel so much better now because it's not my fault. The game's just designed like that, dude. Because that happens every time, right? You think you're going lone soldier and you could hold your own against all these zombies, and all of a sudden, I don't know, a jockey will jump on you and just carry you away, or
Yeah,
one of the
pull
big
you
armed
off.
dudes will just run into you, right? So that made me feel a little bit better about myself in all of our Left 4 Dead 2 adventures. As you know, I like to go a little lone wolf in that game and not revive anybody, just go on my own.
Exactly, especially on bridges. And
So-
the helicopter has room for
so that
4
makes
people.
sense. So that makes sense. If anything, games makes the game harder for me since I like to play solo. Oh, here's a funny one. In Guitar Hero, you get rated, right? 0 to 5 stars. 5 stars means you got the level perfect or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
But the game will never rate you lower than 3 stars. So you're always average in that game. Yeah. I don't think that's true though, because I don't think you can pass a song with 1 or 2 stars. 1 or 2 songs means you failed. So they'll just never give you anything lower than a 3 when you're playing that game. So you always feel like you're doing average in Guitar Hero. Here's one that was pretty funny for me as someone who played a lot of BioShock. Apparently, enemies in BioShock will deliberately miss their first shot. So it gives you more time to dodge and set yourself up to where you want to shoot them from. So if the enemy sees you first, they'll always miss when they shoot at you, just so that you become aware of where they are and make you feel like, oh man, that was close. I was moving in the right direction, but now I can take cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. That being said, BioShock is still scary and hard as shit, regardless, man, if they make the enemies miss first or not. A funny one I read in Half-Life 1, which I think is true in a lot of games. If you're facing more than 2 enemies, only 2 would actually attack you. The rest of the enemies around you, they don't necessarily attack, but they run around acting like they're flanking you. So the entire time, only 2 people will be shooting you. If there's more than 2, then they'll just be running around in circles, essentially. And all they're doing is just saying their voice lines, so it's scaring you into thinking, oh god, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. There's like 10 people around me, you know. And I know there's a lot of games like that. I know in Uncharted, there's a lot of scenarios where it feels like you're getting flanked, but you're really just fighting 2 people, even though there's essentially 10 people around you, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. Oh, here's one from Dark Souls 3. You've played Dark Souls 3, right? Or you haven't yet?
I have not yet.
Okay, well maybe this will make the game a little bit easier for you. Apparently the bosses in Dark Souls 3, they follow a specific time signature with the music for their attacks. So depending on the cue in the music or a note that plays in the music, they'll do a certain attack. And this says the hardest boss in the game doesn't do this. It attacks randomly whenever, wherever. Doesn't matter what the music plays or not. And now that I'm thinking about it, as someone who played a lot of Dark Souls 3, that one was pretty relevant. I just didn't think about it until I read this right now. You know, because you could tell in certain parts of the song, you know when to dodge an attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not even just timing. It's like subliminally planted in your mind. Like, oh god, the music's getting epic. I should dodge to the right here. I'm not saying to pay attention for that. I'm sure once you're like, okay, let me listen to the music here, I'm sure that you'll just die because you're listening rather than looking at the screen. But that makes sense. And the fact that the last boss in the game doesn't follow that structure makes it even crazier, you know, because that last boss in Dark Souls 3 is a pain in the ass. And I think it's because his timing seems so random. Little do you know, you're just being conditioned to listen to the music for certain attacks, and it doesn't work on this one. So I think it's wild. How do you fight bosses more or less in Dark Souls? You look at them, or you just wait for openings in the attack after they attack?
Generally I recognize like all of their attack patterns, and see all of their moves before I even go in. And then once I get the the rhythm down, it's like, okay, I know exactly what he's gonna do right after this attack. He's gonna either jump forward or jump back, kind of thing. So that's how I time my stuff. Is like I always try to predict the enemy, but I didn't know about the whole temple rhythm thing. I guess I'm just gonna have to get musically inclined to listen.
Yeah, because that makes sense too. And with the fighting style for bosses like Gurman, he had such an abundance of attacks, it was almost impossible, right, to gauge what he was gonna do or where to dodge it, because he had like
so tricky and so fast too.
Yeah, he had like 8 or 10 attacks that he would just pull out of nowhere and had different ranges, attack different angles, and that's really what the last boss in Dark Souls 3 is like. So that guy was always, you felt the most satisfied killing him, at least. Let's see, got a couple more here. Okay, so in Gears of War, 90% of the time, the first time people play a multiplayer game, if they get their ass kicked, they'll never play it again, right? They'll just say, I didn't have fun at all in this multiplayer portion of Gears of War, dude. I won't do multiplayer ever again. So what they did was, if it was your first time playing, they would give you a damage bonus, so it was easier to kill people. Then as the more you play multiplayer, that damage bonus tapered off. So they purposefully buffed you up in the beginning of your time playing to make you feel better at the fucking game. Can you believe this, dude? In multiplayer. And see, that scares me, because I know that I was talking to you about multiplayer or PvP in Destiny 2 and how I was just dominating, right?
Yeah.
Like my first 2 games ever in Destiny 2 PvP, I recorded it because I did so well. But now I'm playing PvP in Destiny 2, I'm getting my ass kicked. So now I'm thinking, holy shit, did they just buff me real quick? How's your experience in Destiny PvP been like so far?
Been pretty good. I think I was playing with a couple of us, and it was like I forgot, we were playing some competitive match, and it was like 4v4, which we had like, I don't remember what it was called, but basically there's a place called the Castle, and then there's like the Kelch or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
And you have to go to different places to either plant the bomb or protect the other from, planting the bomb themselves.
Okay, yeah, I know that game mode, yeah.
Yeah. So, I remember like the first round, we just like dominated really badly. It was just, we were just teabagging the shit out of them. And then the next 6 rounds, we got our ass kicked so much. I was like, okay, maybe we're not that good.
Right? It seems like it does get harder as it goes along. I don't know if it is maybe a damage bonus that they give you, or maybe it is just your multiplayer ranking just goes up the more games you play, right? Because the better you get, the more kills you get matched up against better people. So that's funny, dude. That one just hurt my feelings a little bit more, because I've always felt like I was mad decent at PvP, but of course in the beginning of Destiny 2 I was fucking laying the pipe, and now it's not so much, man. There's a lot more I have on here. The majority of them are the same though, where The more enemies that are around you, the weaker their attacks are. Um, the last bullet of your gun in some games does double damage, so it looks like with that last chance you have to kill someone, you actually kill them, even though their health is way up there. Um, a lot of them, yeah, that's a lot of them. Is the game either scales the difficulty depending on how many enemies are around you and gives you more bonuses just to make it you feel more like a badass, right? when,
Yeah.
when you're killing all these people when it seems the most dire. I guess there's this Half-Life 2 one where enemies were almost magnetized to ledges and stuff, so they would fall off when you shot them once, just to make you feel like you did a good job. Like you meant to do that on purpose, shoot them off a ledge. Now there are some tricks too that make the game harder as you go along. For example, here's one: Enter the Gungeon, which is like a hack and slash dungeon crawler, but with guns. The AI, or the computer in that game, they warm up. Essentially, if the longer you play that game, the harder the game gets, because the enemies start to learn your tendencies and where you start to go. They can ambush you a lot more and things like that.
Jeez.
Another example of that is Batman, right? I don't know, did you play the one where you fight Mr. Freeze?
Yeah, and he would like get much better like after you hit him like a couple of times.
Exactly, yeah. If you hit him from behind, he shoots ice behind him now. Or if you use an explosive or something, he puts a shield up that protects him from explosives, right?
Yeah.
And I think stuff like that is cool, where the game is actually learning what you do. And you have to outplay a machine essentially at that point, right? So I think those are cool. I think another one is Alien Isolation. I remember when they first showed that at Comic-Con, they were locking people up inside of a dark orb and had cameras all over them, and people outside could watch them play Alien,
Yeah.
And that game is just a first-person hide-and-seek game against an alien. But I guess the AI mechanic in that learns from what you do. So if you always hide in lockers, the alien will always check the lockers no matter what. It just learns that, you know what, this guy likes to hide in lockers, and we'll just always check them from that point on. So I think along with the ones that make games easier, the one that makes it harder is cool too. It just breaks the magic learning about all of these though. I think I want to start or stop reading about these just so I can feel like I'm a badass no matter what I do. Well, what about you? Do you have any, or do you know of any off the top of your head that not everybody's aware of?
I'm pretty sure that people are aware of these. These ones I have like are just general. Like for example, auto aim.
Oh man.
Usually I would think that I am the shit. So like Red Dead Redemption, and playing that game, I was thinking, yeah, I was dominating people in multiplayer. But then it turns out like the auto aim is like pretty noticeable, but I didn't notice it. So like at the time, I was thinking I was actually landing headshots, but what really happened was the auto aim was just kicking in a lot. And I noticed that like in Destiny 2, I remember I was talking to you guys about auto aim, and I've noticed like I was landing my headshots, but I didn't really see it visually. Like I was just shooting kind of blindly, and I was getting headshots. And then you guys were saying, yeah, you would be shit if there was no auto aim. And I was like, oh, I didn't know there's auto aim in Destiny 2, So I was thinking, I was like, man, maybe that's why I suck really badly with Overwatch. It's because the auto aim is not as strong, or I think it's probably there, but it's just not as strong as Destiny or Red Dead, where you can be able to pop off some headshots. So, I think that really helps the bad players, especially those who are playing controllers, because I know on mouse, the auto aim doesn't really kick in too much because you have so much control. The next example I would think is like, I guess it's kind of like auto control, and it's for Marvel vs. Capcom, and they have like an easy mode.
Oh, yeah. Where you just have to press one button for a combo.
Yeah, so that was the thing, like I remember I would like fight some people, some of our friends, and then we're like, how are you dominating like so good and like pulling off all of these combos and pulling off the supers that but then it turns out like, oh, we just had like auto easy mode on or something like that. So all they had to do was just spam whatever buttons they felt like it, and then they would sometimes win the game, which was pretty crazy in itself. It's like, man, I guess it's that bad where I guess it gets the casual people into where they can just spam things. Another example I would think is like that helps bad players is linear paths. And like if you play some of these games like Uncharted and Last of Us, you feel like you don't know exactly where to go but straight. So you only have one direction to go, and that generally helps us because we rely heavily on GPS or, indicators of pointing things out for us. Back in the day, I remember games were not really that casual. You would always have to like explore, like Tomb Raider. You would always have to explore the dungeon, see what you need to do to go this way. I remember there were so many games I would get lost, and I just have to sit down and think about things. But then now games these days are just like, oh, you have a map and it's just pointing you this way, and there's only one path to go, so you cannot get lost, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's for certain games, of course. And another example would be like story reminders, or like NPCs that always hints things at you. So like, if you're going the wrong direction or something like that, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I don't think you're supposed to be going this way. Yeah, you should be turning back, stuff like that. So like Batman, I was like driving, I was doing like a Riddler challenge, and I was just driving. I kind of got lost. I didn't know exactly what to do. And then the Riddler was just like taunting me, and it's like, hey, you're going the wrong way, doofus. So I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So you just have those story reminders. Sometimes they're in the loading screen, where like in Witcher 3, like I forget exactly what the heck I'm doing when I save and quit. Like I come back and I'm like, what the heck was I supposed to do? And then the loading screen says, oh yeah, this hero is on his way to the tower to save what's his face. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I remember what my main quest is. It's like And then lastly, I would like to say is like button layout that appears or prompts. Like,
oh yeah,
Assassin's Creed, when you're about to get beat up, the counter button says press triangle or something like that. And Batman, when you're sneaking up someone, they're like, always press triangle to stealth them. There's like things like that. They always remind you because you play so many games and you don't remember what these buttons do. Like every time I hopped in Assassin's Creed 4, I didn't know how to drive my ship. Like I would always forget. And then, when you're in the middle of battle with your ship, and I'm like, oh crap, how do I launch the cannons? And they're like, oh yeah, press R2 to launch the cannons, So there's many games like that now where it just prompts you to either do a stealth kill, whether it's on multiplayer Battlefield and stuff like that. So I guess games these days now is just, they got so used to either instructing you or telling you what to do, to the point where it's kind of more casual, where you don't have to figure it out for yourself. Because I guess we got so frustrated in the past of like, oh man, this game is, it's not my taste because I don't know where to go. But now it's like, you only have one way to go. You can't mess it up.
Yeah, no, I'm with you for sure, especially back in the days where strategy guides were such a big thing, right? Where occasionally you would bring your strategy guide to school and show everybody, oh, hey, here's what you do on this part, or you read about shit that you didn't know was in the game or anything like that.
Yeah.
We already know that strategy guides are long gone with YouTube and the internet. But I think you're right. I think that games held your hand a lot less, or at least they felt like they did back in the day. So you had to be a little bit more hardcore when you were playing. And I think the side effects of that, or the effects of that, are super evident, right? The gaming community has grown so huge. A lot more people can just pick up a game and play it and get into it now. rather than before, where there was just a select few who had the knowledge or had the motor skills to be good at a game, right? Everybody can kind of get in and feel pretty good about it, with all these features that help them out. It's making gaming way more successful because the playtime is going up and people just feel better about themselves when they're playing it. And I can't complain because it's probably helped me out, feel better about myself too. After like a shitty day at work, and I'm like, oh man, look at all these headshots I'm landing. I'm so good. So yeah, man, keep them coming. Also, if you know any that we didn't mention here, definitely let us know, man. I love these. I think these are great. And the fact that the developers know what's best for us even before we do makes it that much more funnier. They know the way we're playing their game and where they need to lend us a hand. It's literally the video game gods helping us jump this ledge. Oh man, but yeah, now we'll get to our recommendations for this week. What would you recommend this week, Rick?
I would definitely recommend checking out One Finger Death Punch. It's on Steam, and I think it's about $3. And what you play as, you're a stick figure that knows awesome kung fu. And the game is not hard to learn, to get into. You can easily play a level and then quit, but all you have to do is press the left or right button on your mouse, and it just depends on, it's like a 2D platform, so it depends on what side the enemies come from, and they come at you with different types of weapons, and you just kick butt with different types of moves, and all you have to do is just press left or right on the mouse button. So I don't know, the game got really good reviews, and I definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you want to put some Mortal Kombat music and just want to unleash the beast somehow. This stick figure can actually do a lot of different kung fu moves, especially like after kicking butt, and you can take the enemy's weapon and start using the weapon against everybody else. So there's so many different weapons, especially like a lightsaber you can pick up, which makes you feel badass. So if you want to feel like, I don't know, Christian Bale or something like that, just definitely try playing this game.
And that's Christian Bale in Equilibrium, not in Batman. So there's really only two buttons in this game. Just the left and right mouse button.
Left and right, but it gets a little more complicated. Like you have to press right twice and then left and then right one more time in order to take down that enemy. Because it's like you have to dodge the enemy, and you don't really move with anywhere. You're in place, and depending on how close the enemies are, you would have to attack that enemy the closest to you. Otherwise, they would hit you. So it's really good. It's really innovative, and I definitely recommend that game.
Okay. I will recommend Final Fantasy IX this week.
Oh, damn.
Tokyo Game Show, Sony announced that they were dropping Final Fantasy IX on PlayStation 4. So you could buy it now. I think it's $15 on PlayStation 4. If not, it's on Steam for the same price. And for a lot of people, that was a return to the origins for Final Fantasy. I mean, all the Final Fantasies up until 7 were all set in medieval times, I mean, they had robots, but there were still castles, crossbows, swords, and all that stuff. And then you get to Final Fantasy 7, and it's set in steampunk era. Final Fantasy 8, there's flying schools and gunblades and things like that. Final Fantasy 9 really brought it back to the medieval type of setting. And I know a lot of people came back to the series when that came out. Great story. Can't say enough about it. I think it's my third favorite Final Fantasy game, if I'm remembering correctly. So definitely check that out. They've got the upgraded graphics. I think it's the PC version now that's on PlayStation 4. That's a great game. It's got Vivi, the little black mage, in it. Oh yeah, that's what it is too. They put in different classes, whereas in 7 or 8, everybody could do everything. They could do magic, they could attack, and be strong at everything. In Final Fantasy 9, everybody was more, each character had their own attributes that were more specialized for them, right?
I like that. You know,
Yeah.
like you have different that. Yeah.
I think there was a red mage, that wolf lady. What was the name of the? Is it Zidane?
I never played 9.
Oh, really? Well, then, dude,
Yeah.
I recommend you check it out, man. Because it's on the PlayStation 4 now. But yeah, it's good times. The story's great. There's a lot of side stories, which I think you'll like, Rick, that involve each character as well. So yeah, check it out. Upgraded and updated for the new systems, man.
Before the PlayStation 5 comes out.
Shit. PlayStation
I think
5.
it said 2019 they said, or something like that.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
they better, man. Yeah, I don't want to see Red Dead Redemption 2 on PlayStation 5. I have to spend $600 for a new Red Dead game. Man. So at Tokyo Game Show out, it was kind of rough seeing all these games that Japan gets. I know we mentioned some here. There are some that don't really make sense here in America. I think there was one called Neko something. It wasn't Neko Para. It was something else.
I was like, oh, what?
But essentially, all it was a VR game where you're sitting on your couch watching TV with a cat. And that's it, dude. And you know, Japan or Asia is the originator of cat cafes and all that stuff, so that makes sense for them over there. But as we've come to realize, Japan has a specific taste in video games. Dating simulators are a lot more prevalent over there, visual novels and things like that. So next week, I want to talk about video games that we wish came out here in the US that came out in Japan. I already know off the top of my head one that Rick and I have been talking about for a long time. I actually might pull the trigger on it, man. I might pull the trigger and just buy it off of PlayAsia, even though I don't think it has English subtitles. But it should be funny, dude. There's a lot of funny, kind of really specialized games that come out in Japan that never make their way here, that you wouldn't even believe are a game. Like Dead or Alive Volleyball. So we'll talk about more of those next week. But before then, Rick, some words of wisdom.
If you suck in video games, just put the controller down.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.